monitoring these elections?
Thank you so much. Since I left office, I've always been scared talking to the media. But in this particular case, I decided to speak to the media. First and foremost, to thank Nigerians for the show of empathy, the encouragement, because while we were in Bissau and this so-called coup happened, the information we got was that the whole country was agitated, young and old, irrespective of religious divides or political divides. And I sincerely appreciate Nigerians, and I want them to hear directly from my mouth to appreciate their concern. And secondly, to thank my president, President Tinubu, and the Ivorian president, President White, were to send aircrafts to lift us. But somehow, Côte d'Ivoire is closer to Guinea-Bissau, and there is always some relationship between Francophone countries and the Lusophones among the Francophones. They were able to penetrate their system to get landing permit first before Nigeria could do that. So the Ivorian aircraft was already on their way to pick us. So when we learned about the Nigerian aircraft about leaving, we asked them not to bother. That is why if you see the brought by an Ivorian aircraft. So we thank the two presidents, President Ouattara, President Tinubu, and indeed thank Nigerians, young and old, for that. And specifically, what happened in Guinea-Bissau, I wouldn't call it a coup. It was not a coup. Maybe some people describe it as no, not quite.
RNG?
I will just say it, if it is like, for want of better word, I would say maybe it was a ceremonial coup. Because for two things, it is the president, President Balo, that announced the coup. Before later, the military man came up to address the world that they were in charge of everywhere. Then Mbalo has already announced the coup, which is strange. Not only announcing the coup, but Mbalo, while the coup took place, was using his phone and addressing media organizations across the world that he has been arrested. I'm a Nigerian close to 70, and I know how they keep heads of state when a coup takes place. Recently, I was a mediator in Mali, an ECOWAS mediator in Mali, and within that period, we had a military coup. Military don't take over governments, and the sitting president that they overthrown will be allowed to be addressing press conferences and announcing that he has been arrested. Why does this happen? Who is fooling who? Basically, what happened in Guinea-Bissau is quite disturbing to me, who believes in democracy. In fact, I feel more pained than the day I called Buhari to congratulate him when I lost the election as a sitting president. Because I've been quite particular about Guinea-Bissau. As a sitting president, then, Guinea-Bissau was in crisis. Started by about 2012. By 2011, we have to go physically. We worked with them and made sure that by 2014, we went 2013, elections were conducted. In fact, it was so bad the day that I learned that a military man went to the office of the prime minister and slapped the prime minister in the office. It was that bad. And what is happening is like we are going back to those dark days of Guinea-Bissau, where the military can do whatever they think they can do. It's totally not acceptable. The elections were done peacefully. We were in the field. I was a part of the West African Elders Forum. Normally, we are not co-observers, so we didn't deploy observation teams across, but we observed within Bissau, the capital, and the neighboring settlements. But during the meeting of all heads of observation missions, and they gave accounts of all the observers gave their account. Nobody gave something different. The elections were peaceful. Counting of results at the polling units peacefully done. The conduct of the electoral officials, the security, the party agents, the voters. So it was a good election, and one expected the result to be announced. Then while they were collating the results, then they are finished collating results. Results are, for presidential election are collated at different levels. The 9 regions, results were ready. So they were collating them at the capital. And when they were almost through, and we're all waiting for the result to be announced, then Mbello announced that that's a coup. That they have taken over, they have arrested him. But from all indications, nobody arrested him. My conviction is that, and my charge to ECOWAS and AU is that they must announce that result. They have the results because AU and ECOWAS officials were at all the regions when the results were collated. They cannot change those results. They should tally all those results and announce. They cannot force the military out, but they must announce, let the world know who won that election. Let the world know who won that election. And they owe the world that responsibility. Similar thing happened in Cote d'Ivoire when I was the chair of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS. When in 2010 we had elections in Cote d'Ivoire, Gbagbo was the sitting president.
Our African leaders will not seem to amaze me. Like, for real, we act as very uncivilized sometimes. Now, this country, Guinea-Bissau, held their presidential elections on 23rd of November 2025. The main race was between the current incumbent president Umaru Sissoco Embalo and the major opposition candidate Fernando Costa Diaz. Now, the election was controversial. The main opposition party had been barred from the vote, contributing to accusations by critics that the process was stacked in Mbalo's favor. Now, on 26th of November, just before provisional results were due, there were a lot of gunfire that erupted near the key government buildings and the Electoral Commission, and soldiers appeared on state TV declaring that they had seized control. Now, looking at what President Goodluck Jonathan said, it is not consistent with the news that came out in the first place. It was Mbalo, the current incumbent president, who announced the coup itself. So that's a strange take. That's a strange position to be in. So that means something fishy is happening in Guinea-Bissau. Now, the military announced that they had disposed Mbalo, suspended the election process and sealed border, and imposed a curfew. Now, the next day, the military installed Hunter Intan, Army Chief of Staff, as transitional leader. Now, what is being alleged is a possible fake coup or power play, which Jonathan stated in his interview today. So a lot of the opposition figures and civil society groups too have argued that this isn't a genuine coup. The same thing Jonathan said, but a manipulation staged by Mbalo or forces loyal to him to avoid conceding defeat. The opposition challenger, Fernando Diaz, claims he actually won the election, citing polling station reports. He says the coup was fabricated to avoid him taking power. Now, critics such as Jonathan also highlighted that the general installed as transitional leader was previously close to Mbalo. Now, this fuels a lot of suspicion that the coup was a way to maintain influence indirectly. Now, the timing, the gunfire just before the results were released, both main candidates claiming victory suggests chaos that could have been orchestrated. Now, a lot of people also suggested that the uncertainty around the official results created a pretext for the military intervention, possibly at Mbalo's command. Now, in short, opponents argue that this isn't a legitimate military takeover, but a power grab disguised as a coup intended to annul unfavorable election results and keep Mbalo in control. This is consistent with what President Goodluck Jonathan stated in this interview. Now, why do we think that this matters a lot? What is the big picture and the major risks that we are prone to face if this situation goes unresolved? If the coup was staged to prevent electoral defeat, this undermines the credibility of elections and democracy in a country already marked by instability, and it further risks further political fragmentation, distrust in institutions, and could provoke civil unrest, especially if support of the opposition rejects the legitimacy of the takeover. Now, you can see from the interview that Jonathan has been urging the ECOWAS to take action against the outcome of that election, that the election results should be announced, which is very important. It should be announced because we cannot keep entertaining a coup in West African countries, empowering military takeovers all the time. Regional bodies like African Economic Community of West Africa, ECOWAS, and African Union are condemning the coup and demanding a return to constitutional order. This move could open space for military dominance in politics and influence from non-state actors. Meanwhile, from all indication, it shows that the current incumbent president Mbalo has actually played a fast one on the opposition leader. Well, Africa and ECOWAS must try as much as they can to resolve this issue, because if they don't, in the long run, this might cause instability in that country. And it's actually very rare to see Goodluck Ebele Jonathan come out publicly like this to speak on issues like this. For him to have done that, you should know that there is a lot at stake, and he was really pained by how the process was undertaken, and it was because the incumbent was trying to play smart, to outsmart all the observers and the West African leaders, which is not fair, even compared to the situation to when he lost election to Muhammadu Buhari, and he had to call Buhari to concede defeat. So that shows a man of integrity. From what he's saying is the fact that this thing pained him more even when he lost election. That's to show you the gravity of frustration he felt at what the president was trying to do by, forcing a coup and, bringing his allies to become the president of the country.